Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next perfect step, where all possibilities lie in conversation. I'm Laurie Mullen, and I feel super blessed to be here. We are just now doing our 1 year podcast, and I can't thank you enough for being here with us.
Welcome again. I'm Laurie Tremblay. I am an energy worker, as Laurie is, and we are super excited. We had a girls' weekend away last year, and from that weekend, we had the ideas kept brewing for this podcast, and we just kept allowing things to happen. And one step after another led to the next perfect step, which is the podcast. And we've had beautiful guests, great conversations, including our special guest today, Annette Dion. She's a good friend of mine, a psychic medium, and she's a teacher and an advocate for democracy and a musician. So let's give a warm welcome to Annette. So happy to have you join us today.
Hear the virtual applause. Yay!
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I'm Annette Dion. I am a professional psychic. I've been working as a psychic this is my 31st year. And I do tarot readings. I do mediumship. I read past lives. I read people's blueprint, their soul blueprint. I'm a spiritual life coach. I can hone in on people's life purpose, the path, the reasons for which they incarnated. My style is in your face, and I don't mean that to be intimidating. It's just very direct. And I also, this past several years, I started a YouTube channel, and it's at Psychic Annette Dion is my YouTube channel. And I founded PNN, the Psychic News Network. And I do 3 shows a week. I started a group called grassrootsofdemocracy.com in 2022. I recognize that we came into this lifetime with many of us with the purpose to save democracy in America. And as the years have gone on and we've found ourselves in this crisis, it's not just a political crisis, it's a spiritual crisis. And so I've devoted most of my time to raising awareness of what's happening in America. And I do my Psychic News Network channel as a way to kind of come together to talk about what's going on during my live streams, and to get people involved, and also to laugh and to lighten up the energy, because it's really important that we come together as community, even virtually, to raise the vibration, because love is the most powerful vibration in the universe, and we need to harness it together. So it's an opportunity right now for us to really create a collective. It's like a one organism, and to strengthen that collective organism. So that's my main focus, since things have changed in this country. And I feel like those of us who have been spiritually involved and spiritually educated, self-educated mostly, to really come together and use the tools. And I haven't seen your show. I apologize. I just wasn't aware of it. So I know you have questions. Fire away.
Laurie, do you have any questions?
So I'd just like to hear a little bit about your journey and how you got started, becoming a psychic medium, and where it got started, and a little bit about your journey to where you are right now.
So what happened for me was, when I was young, when I was a child, teenager, I started to be aware that other people, it's kind of like when you start to become aware that other people don't think the way that you think, maybe in certain circles. I started to be aware that I wasn't perceiving things in the same way that other people were, that I would know something about someone without any rational way of knowing that. I think I kind of picked it up from my mom, because she had this sort of a radar. She's pretty psychic, although she won't say that she is, where she would say she'd say something like, oh, that guy, he's such a phony. And I didn't know really what she was referencing, but she would just say it. And then I realized she was picking up on energy. So for me, I reached a certain point where I felt very much like I had presences around me that were helping me. And I said, what is this? I kind of asked them. And I clearly got a message. You have a psychic gift. And if you want to, you can use it to help other people. If you don't want to use it, that's fine. So I got immediately that there was no, like shoulds or have to, or you'll be in trouble if you don't do this. So I got involved in reading tarot cards with a close friend. We found out we were quite good at it. She's gone on, she lives in Tennessee now, and she's gone on to just do other things. And I just kept going with it. When I moved to Nashville from Massachusetts, I'm in Gloucester, Massachusetts, my hometown, I encountered people who wanted readings, and then they would call me after the reading and say, how did you know that? You're so good, you should charge for this. And then from there, I got a job at a store, a new age store in downtown Nashville on 2nd Avenue. And I just started attracting clients, and the rest is history.
That's great. And I also know that you have a spiritual summer school, isn't that
Yes.
right? With classes
Thank you for
coming up.
picking up on that. The bane of my existence is my aversion to promoting myself, and that's probably why I'm not as hugely busy as I'd like to be. I did this last year too. I have spiritual summer school, which is 7 classes. We had the first class last Saturday. They're all on Saturdays from 2 to 3:30 Eastern time. And
Right.
last week's was develop your psychic skills. And this coming Saturday, the 13th, is tarot in 90 minutes. Learn to read the tarot in 90 minutes. So there's nothing like it. And I've been reading tarot for 30 years, so plus. So sign up for that at psychicannetteDion.com. And the rest of the classes are like past lives, meeting your guides, learning how to meditate, that kind of thing. So you can sign up for all of them, all remaining 6 if you want. We need to hone our skills during these times because there's so much misinformation out there and so much confusion. So I'm grateful to be able to bring this to people. And I'm grateful for myself that I'm able to do, like, I know what truth is when I hear it. I know what fake is when I hear it and see it. And we all have that ability. We're all already psychic. We've just been told that we're not. Like any talent. Some people are just born better at it than others, but we're all psychic. We all have the 6th sense. It's a sense.
Right. Well, it's kind of like you said, it's been, knocked out of us since we were young. It's been discouraged.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Yeah. And we were taught not to trust ourselves.
right. So one of my main goals is to help people remember who they are. Like you were saying that, we all have these gifts and we're all much more magnificent than we've been led to believe.
Or be shown also who we are for the first time.
Right.
Because that gets hidden from us.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of anxiety now because of the situation in the world, and there's just a lot of people that need reassurance and guidance and hope.
And and on that note too, when things get really tough, where do people turn?
Right.
Even people that are atheists, right? You hear people that never believed in a higher power, and then a crisis hits, and it's like they're down on their knees going, "Help me!" Right? This big energies, the universe is God or whatever. They know there's a power to appeal to. I also have a church, an online church called Church of Spirituality, which I started up on my YouTube channel, psychicannetteDion.com, not .com, but Psychic Annette Dion on YouTube, Church of Spirituality on YouTube. And every single Sunday at 1 Eastern time, I do an actual church service based on metaphysics. I come from 15 years of experience playing piano for churches. So I know how to structure a service. And so that's my way of getting people to feel empowered and to not have the religious dogma associated. that channel is very small right now because I just started it as its own separate channel aside from the psychic channel, because they're different energy. So so go to that Church of Spirituality and sign up to it. It doesn't cost you anything, just subscribe.
That's great. That's awesome.
It's awesome. I just need to get the word out to more people.
Oh,
So what's the biggest message we need to hear to help people through these chaotic times we're going through right now?
good
And
question.
let me give you a little bit of to borrow a little bit of wisdom from my teacher Sadhguru, who I met in Nashville. It's almost like it was a divine, pointing me in a certain direction to move to Nashville, not just for the music business that I wanted to be around and songwriting business, but also that because I moved to Nashville in 1998, I happened upon this teacher named Jaggi, who later became, he changed his name to Sadhguru, which means self-realized guru. So what he would say to us, I've literally sat at the feet of the guru for hundreds and hundreds of hours, including the trip to India in 1998. He would say, the only way out is in. And the problem that people are having is we haven't been trained. Unless we had the ridiculous blessing that like I had with meeting Sadhguru and hanging out with him. We haven't been taught that the power is within us. And even the gospel according to St. Thomas was hidden, in which that rich wisdom of the kingdom of heaven is within us was expounded upon. So we, during this time of crisis, like I said, that's the place where people humanly naturally go is, help me, I don't know what to do with all this, right? So there's a sense of surrender that I don't know what's going on. And you might notice that there's a preponderance of psychics and spiritual guides and mediums that are all being taken not necessarily seriously, but are being listened to and sought out because people don't know where else to go, because most people weren't taught to go within. So I would say, as far as managing the stress, especially recently, the past 2 weeks, there has been a proliferation of fake information, of distorted and slanted information. There is a large body of corporations that are at the risk of getting too close to the political discussion. I won't do that. That are attempting to create an oligarchy in the United States. And so they have controlled the narrative. And what we have to do is understand now, this is critical to this very time that we're in, a very immediate time. We have to reject the lies. And in order to understand that we're being lied to, we have to pay attention to our gut. When you turn on, say, the news to find out what's going on, and what you feel is like, that feels bad to me, right? Why aren't they talking about the good news? There's actually a lot of good news. You have to search for it. Do not cave in to the fear. I just remembered an acronym one of my teachers taught me many years ago: false evidence appearing real. If it feels wrong, it is wrong. And the way to get out of the stress of it, for me, I'm submerged in the news. Just this week, though, I stopped watching mainstream news because they were lying to me about Joe Biden, and they're not covering the Antichrist, right? So what's really important is that we are able to remove ourselves from it, go to our toolkit of how do I calm myself down. How I calm myself down is I make sure I'm getting exercise outdoors, right? If I miss a day, it's like, oh, I really should have done, I'm going to make sure it happens tomorrow. What I do is I have a meditation practice that Sadhguru taught. You can do any kind of meditation practice. Twice a day, every day, like brushing my teeth, I will not skip that. I will not skip my yoga practice. So I'm telling you this, not that, oh, I have it all handled, not at all. To encourage everybody to find their center. In an emergency situation, if there's an emergency, maybe your loved one, God forbid, has an emergency, right? You have to call the EMTs. Do you want the EMT who's freaking out? Do you want the EMT that can't hold it? Oh, blood. Oh, you know, oh, this, what if they die? You don't want that. You want the EMT who's going to be like, okay, what do we got to do here? Level-headed and calm. When we're in fear, then we're susceptible. Then we're weakened. You know, like FDR said, the only thing to fear is fear itself. So it's essential that we calm ourselves down. And if we have no clue how to do that, maybe we grew up in a really high stress family or have lots of PTSD, which is being triggered during these times. If we don't have a practice, we're going to feel completely lost. But the solution is to find one. I actually have counseled a lot of people to, as a homework assignment in my classes, join a restorative yoga class. And you can't believe how much people fight what's good for them. And if it's a life coaching client, next week I'd say, well, how was it? Did you enjoy the class? Oh, I didn't do it. Why didn't you do it? One of the things that's most amazed me about human beings is the resistance to changing for the better. And that word change really hangs people up. And if we don't learn how to change during these times that we're in, we are in an acceleration right now. We are in a time that the literal vibrational frequency of the planet has accelerated. Scientific studies have even proven that time has sped up by a fraction of a second, which is a lot. I mean, when that happens, we can't literally point to, oh, I can see it, but how many of us feel like time's just, wasn't it just last year at this time? 4th of July, you probably remember what you were doing, you know, July 10th. It's essential that we calm down. I was a big fan of Wayne Dyer. I still am, even though he's left the earthly plane. And he talked a lot about the need to be still in order to tap into the guidance. And if we want to be at a higher frequency vibration, which means the lower vibration energies can't touch us. The paradox is when we stop, or when we slow down, when we become still, that's when we can change our vibration. We cannot change our vibration. It's like Einstein said, you can't solve a problem at the level of the problem. This is another version of that. We can't make a peaceful world when we're not peaceful. It's not possible. We lose all kinds of power when we subscribe to fear. So I'll just end my long answer to your question with this. When people have panic and anxiety attacks, what I have observed is that they've stopped breathing. And the brain literally goes into survival mode and it reacts as though you're suffocating. And the strongest desire, the strongest instinct, of course, obviously, is their survival instinct. So when the brain is not getting the oxygen that it needs, it signals to the brain, I'm dying. And that's when the panic sets in. And if someone's having a panic and anxiety attack and just doesn't do the simple act of take a deep breath in, hold her for a few seconds, and then breathe out, make the long out breath. Laurie, you probably know this. You probably both know this. The long out breath, a little longer than the inhalation. At least 3 breaths. Get a grip, right? And I'm susceptible to panic and anxiety, of course. Being a psychic, oh my, this is like, everyone's getting pummeled, but a psychic who's been trained and trained herself or himself to be more receptive to messages and energies is going to get pummeled. I had to learn to shield myself better. Back at the time in 2005, Hurricane Katrina, during the time of the Columbine shootings, of like these big tragedies that we see so much of right now, we've been kind of calloused. I was in a fetal position curled up in my bed until I became more resilient. And back during, the 90s, these things were not frequent, like the Columbine in 2005. Katrina was like an anomaly, right? But the despair and the distress that people were going through, I could not handle it. It's a good thing I got tougher, right? We have to toughen up. And I just want to say one other thing is I have noticed, unfortunately, I've noticed a lot of people thinking that, like, for instance, and I know they mean it as a compliment, like, oh, you're so brave. Like, because I get on YouTube and I talk about what's going on in the political arena, and I just tell the truth. Oh, you're so brave. I walked in 3 parades passing the message out about Project 2025. I had these cards made. People are like, oh, you're so brave. How can you do that? You're so brave. I'm not brave. And if people think it takes an incredible amount of courage to do that, well, come on, let's toughen up, right? I mean, if I was living in Ukraine fighting the Russians, I'd be like, oh, well, yeah, maybe that's brave. My point is, we have to be stronger psychically and stronger energetically and stronger emotionally. We just do. It's not a judgment. We just need to be more forthcoming with what our contribution is going to be. It's not a judgment. I don't judge people for being that way. I understand why people are that way. It's just that this time requires us to stand up and be strong. This country was founded on spiritual principles, that we have a right to live and think independently. If you're in this work, it requires that. So maybe I'm fighting so hard because I want to preserve my right to do the work that I do. But we have to understand, like, those revolutionary soldiers, they were courageous. This is nothing. And our angels and our guides are always with us to help us and to protect us. Every Tuesday night, I have a guided meditation for a healed America. You can sign up for that at grassrootsofdemocracy.com. And we together visualize healing happening. That's been for 2 years now. So I've monopolized the entire conversation, but it's your turn now.
Seems like you're a spiritual warrior, so.
It's exactly the term that I used at our meeting the other night for Grassroots of Democracy. Because I was actually talking about evil, and I was referencing, let me just grab this book here. You remember F. Scott Peck, who wrote The Road Less Traveled?
I didn't read it,
But you remember the book. It was a huge book. He also wrote about evil. And I've been telling people about this book. We're up against evil. In no uncertain terms, we're up against the forces of evil. So that's why I was referring to ourselves in our group as spiritual warriors. I was just throwing that term out there because we do have to be spiritual warriors. And many, 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 many people signed up for that. More than you will ever know. Signed up to be spiritual warriors. So you too may be spiritual warriors undercover, or maybe you're not undercover. The spiritual warriors to do a show that has the spiritual content, bringing it to the mainstream, which is more and more what's happening.
It's important to get it out. Yeah. It's important to have those conversations, right, Laurie?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we wanted to do, is make these conversations, spiritual conversations, more everyday conversations instead of woo-woo conversations. We wanted this to be the normal. And I think that's important. I think it's important for people to be able to go and find like-minded people to have these conversations with. When usually in their inner circles, they don't always have the same type of people to have that conversation with, and to be open to find a group or people to have the conversations that they want to, and to make them normal, to normalize them, was really an important thing for me and Laurie. Yeah. And that's about expansion, right? When we have these conversations, we can expand at the same time.
And it almost gives people permission.
Right. Right.
You know,
When
give a
people, when you
show.
have your inner circle that aren't, on the same path, the direction that you're going in, and you can't have these conversations with, yeah, it's nice to have somebody who you can talk to, that it does feel normal, that you're not sheltering what you're saying, or editing what you're saying because you're afraid of their reaction, that you can just openly have a conversation and feel comfortable about it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it gives you permission. It gives people permission. I also think that we are, because we've become so technologically based, and so I often think of that line in that song Sounds of Silence, almost like Simon and Garfunkel had this premonition where they have that line that says people talking without speaking, people praying without listening. We have lost the art of conversation. And I complain about it frequently. I was just saying to a friend the other day, I just feel so disheartened when I extend a conversation opener or, something to a stranger, or maybe somebody in line, a cashier, or, somebody in customer service, where I'm just a friendly person. I'm a Sagittarius. Are you too, Laurie?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Mm.
And I just feel like the sense of dismay when they don't respond. And if it happens once, that's one thing. But when it happens repeatedly, and sadly, I find it happen at the risk of sounding like, oh, back in my day, mostly the generation that grew up with technology in their hands. And what's really sad to me is maybe they haven't learned the art of conversation. And usually in a Zoom meeting, I really find it refreshing that it's not happening here. People don't listen. Have you noticed that? It's being modeled by like news channel interviews and everything. It's like the people talking over one another and not listening. And I think that actually on some level, people are craving conversation. And I find that on my channel, if I am having a conversational show with a guest, that people really love that. We crave what we're lacking. We crave what we're lacking, and we crave things we don't even know that we're craving until we see them and we go, wow, I really got drawn into that because it was a conversation. And speaking of what people are seeking right now, they want to be heard. And if you took a little survey, I would say, if you took a survey that said, how often do you, individual person, feel really heard? Like that somebody really sat down and let you share. This doesn't even happen in romantic relationships way too much of the time, from what I see in my counseling work. And I know I'm monopolizing the conversation, but I have a lot to say.
Go ahead.
That we need to work on that, right? Because I have not ever met a person who feels fully heard, fully like somebody bore witness to what was happening. And that's what we need the most. And if we wonder why people are so irritated and effing pissed off, it's because so often it just, it's layers of stuff. So often, maybe 100% of the time, somebody dissed them. I saw a guy the other day just trying to cross the street. He had on a bicycle, an older man who's on a bicycle, helmet, obviously a bike rider. And it was not a busy street. And he was this is in Rockport, which is not very, busy like city streets are. And 2 cars just went right by. He was just trying to cross the street, and I heard him say, "Effing asshole!" Right? Like, I didn't blame them. They couldn't just pause and let him cross the street. And so I went, see what's happening in our country? People don't feel like they're being regarded. There's nothing more infuriating to any human being, I feel, than to be dissed and ignored and treated like you're not there. And we've got to start changing that one person, one conversation at a time. We all deserve to be viewed as a valuable being, because we all are. We're all valuable. And it has to start with children. Nothing irks me more than to see a parent with a young child who's got their phone and is like this.
I know, me too.
Makes me
I
crazy.
don't think it just started with technology, though. I think it's been a society of controlling, and we start with our parents, that we are just taught to do what we're told. We have given our power away. We are taught to give our power away. And I think that's where we're not seen and heard. And when we take our own power back, it's a process, right? We're learning to retake our power back. And in that learning, we swing the pendulum from one side to the other. So we have no power. We feel unseen, unheard, unvalued. And that is what we're seeing within ourselves. And we swing the pendulum the other way. So when we're starting to learn to take that power back, we're forceful with it. We talk over one another. We want to be seen and heard, and we're going to force you to do it. And then we learn the balance of it, where we come back to that conversation where I now can let you talk without feeling like I've given my power to you. And I'm standing in my power to listen and then have the conversation. You know, I think technology is a big part, but I don't think that's where it came. I think it came from that we've given all of our power away. We don't feel valued. We don't feel seen. And I think in the learning process of taking that back, we go through this process, this journey. And I've seen it in my own life where I have none. And then I swing the total opposite way, and I'm forceful with it. I am taking my power back, and I am going to force you to watch me. And then back to where we are right now, where we're having a conversation. And I think that that's what we're watching play out. I think we're watching, like you just saw, that person who nobody even saw the person standing there wanting to cross the road.
Intentional.
He doesn't feel seen. And then he's trying to yell, "See me." And then eventually when he feels that he's taken that power back, you know, he can be seen to cross the road. You know, I mean, I just think that that's, you know, the process that we're on, and that's the learning process. And I hope that we find a better way of learning it more smoothly and flowingly, instead of swinging the pendulum. But I think that, you know, we're all here, right? We're all here. I can listen to you and still be here, heard and seen without diminishing from any of us, right?
Yeah.
We're all valued, no matter who's talking or who isn't. You know, I mean, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful.
Oh, she muted. It's a skill too. It's a skill. Like you've heard conversational skills. Back, I remember a long time ago when I was growing up, my dad is a reader, and he'd have a bookcase, and one of the books I always spotted was How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? Dale Carnegie. It was kind of a huge hit.
Classic.
Yeah. And it was teaching people. I mean, if I went back and read the book, I don't know, probably a lot of it will be relevant, right? Teaching people the skill. And I've been in many workshops where, you know, maybe a talking stick was being passed, or that kind of thing. What I want to mention about what Laurie just said is taking back, to me, has an inference that you had it before, right? Or remembering there's what's inferred there is that you had it and you're just going back to it. The reason I brought up technology is that I fear, and maybe it's not a grounded fear in, you know, facts, but maybe it's just a fear, that when you see toddlers being handed an iPad, right? Before they've been able to develop their sense of being an autonomous being. Then see, this will be another show probably. This is a much deeper conversation. Then there's no, it's kind of like my whole philosophy that I think a child is better off being brought up with some kind of a sense of there's a higher power. Even if it's like religion, just the sense that there's a higher power, because at least it's something that they can kind of subconsciously or consciously go back to. It's a place to go back to. So my fear is that if that's not established, like somebody being a valuable human being that's worth listening to, if that's not being established, just like I feel that many people don't know what love actually is, sadly. I don't think it's most, but I think many people don't know what it actually is. And Donald Trump is one of those people.
Mhm.
Never knew, it was never introduced and never will be introduced. And, you know, that's where the extreme narcissism comes in. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that, you know, all that is true. The added element for me is technology intervening at those early stages, making it that humans go to the technology because that was their original base, right? So, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Definitely, it's definitely a learning process.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of you. Thank you, Annette, for your sharing your ideas and observations. Very, very well said. I know you have a time constraint, so is there anything you'd like to add?
I would like to empower people by teaching more people.
Mhm.
So I'm very, very gifted. I humbly say, and I'm too humble in that I don't market myself enough. 31 years of experience is nothing to sneeze at. Anybody who's been doing, you know, maybe you all have been doing your work for decades, you know you have mastery. You can say that without feeling like you're a braggart. You earned it. You have mastery. You're a master in your field if you've been practicing it for decades. So my most fervent desire at this time is to get people on board with what work that I'm doing. I learned from the greatest teachers ever. I say that with humility, that I had that gift and that blessing in my life, that I learned from the best teachers ever, from my perspective. I love to teach. I love to get people in. I love to do spiritual life coaching. I've watched people transform in front of my eyes. They're like complete overhauls in their lives. I've been through dark nights of the soul. I can help people to get through it. It's part of the journey. So if you reach out to me at psychic.annetteDion.com, at least we could get together for the tarot class on Saturday, July 13th. My classes are really fun. They're really engaging. I'm not a psychic who will, you know, not laugh, not joke, not be light and fun. And, you know, I'm not a psychic that's going to be all gloom and doom. I'm not somebody who will ever say, you have a curse on you, but come back with $500 and I'll remove it. Like any of that. That makes me crazy. It's the real thing. It's the real stuff. So I really appreciate you giving me a forum to advertise. And I'm going to be pushing myself more on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. It's my new moon in Cancer commitment.
Good.
And I think that's where you picked up on, you know, to reach out.
Right. I've seen a couple of your episodes too on YouTube, but
yeah.
Laurie's going to post your contact information in the notes so people can refer to them to contact you. And I know you're the real deal. I know personally you're the real deal. So
thank you.
Congratulations for your contributions.
Thanks. And I'll be reaching out more. And if you're really freaked out about what's going on in this country, and if you're paying attention, you're freaked out about what's going on in America, join us at Psychic Annette Dion on YouTube.
Thank you.
And
We will have all of her information in the comments below so that you can get in touch with her and join her classes or anything, we'll have all of that information in the comments below so you can connect with Annette. We want to thank you for joining us. And until next
you.
time, how is your intuition leading you to the next perfect step?
All right.